2,000 years ago, a group of men figured something out. Something about pain, about power, about what it truly means to be unbreakable. They were emperors, slaves, generals, exiles, and what they left behind changed everything. The channel where ancient philosophy meets modern life, where the timeless teachings of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca become tools you can use today. Not in a library, not in a lecture hall, in your life, in your decisions, in who you choose to become. Every week we go deep into the habits, the mindsets, and the disciplines that separate the men the world forgets from the men the world remembers. If you're here because you want more clarity, more strength, more respect, more purpose, you're exactly where you need to be. Welcome. There is a man you know. He is intelligent. He works hard. He shows up. And yet, no one truly respects him. People smile at him in meetings, then ignore his ideas. His words land in empty air. His presence carries no weight. And the most painful part, he has no idea why. What if I told you the reason has nothing to do with his intelligence, his talent, or his success? What if the habits he performs every single day, habits so ordinary he doesn't even notice them, are silently destroying the respect he has spent his entire life trying to earn? Today, we're going to talk about 7 habits that destroy your respect, and what the ancient Stoics discovered about the kind of man the world cannot help but honor. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will never look at your own daily behavior the same way again. Over 2,000 years ago, in the ancient world of Greece and Rome, a group of thinkers wrestled with one of the most enduring questions of human existence. What makes a man worthy of respect? Not admiration, not envy, not fear. Respect. The deep, quiet, unspoken acknowledgement that this person is different. This person has something most people don't. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they didn't just philosophize about this in libraries. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man in the known world. He commanded armies. He governed millions. And in the private pages of his meditations, a journal never meant to be published, he wrote with brutal honesty about his own failures, his own temptations, his own struggle to become worthy of the position life had placed him in. Epictetus was a slave. He owned nothing. He controlled nothing, not even his own body. And yet the men who studied under him, senators, generals, aristocrats, spoke of him with a reverence they didn't give their emperors. How? What did these men understand that most people in our modern world have completely forgotten? Here is what I believe, after years of studying their teachings. Respect is not built by what you achieve. Respect is built or destroyed by how you carry yourself every single day. And the habits we're about to explore, they are the silent killers, not dramatic failures, not public scandals. Just small, everyday patterns of behavior that over time erode the invisible architecture of who you are in the eyes of others. Before we begin, if you've never subscribed to this channel, and you're serious about building a better version of yourself through the wisdom of the Stoics, hit that subscribe button right now. There are thousands of people on this channel building the same thing you're building. You belong here. Now, let's get into it. Habit number 1, seeking approval from everyone. Let me paint you a picture. You're in a room. You say something, maybe a thought, an opinion, a joke, and before the words are even finished leaving your mouth, your eyes are scanning the room. Did they laugh? Did they nod? Did they approve? If you've ever done this, and if you're honest with yourself, you probably have, you already understand this habit on a visceral level. And here is the brutal truth the Stoics understood. The man who constantly seeks approval has already announced, without saying a word, that he does not trust his own judgment. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his meditations, "The word self-respect is key, not their respect, self-respect." Because here's the paradox that most people never figure out. The more desperately you chase the approval of others, the less they respect you. Think about it. When you observe a man who changes his opinion the moment someone pushes back, when you see someone who laughs at jokes they clearly find unfunny just to fit in, when you watch a person agree enthusiastically with 2 completely contradicting viewpoints in the same conversation, what do you feel? You don't feel admiration. You feel a subtle, almost unconscious contempt. Not because you're cruel, but because something deep in human psychology recognizes an empty vessel when it sees one. Epictetus understood this. He was blunt about it in a way only a man who had nothing to lose could be. What does that mean? It means the path to genuine respect runs directly through the willingness to be disapproved of. Think of the people in your own life you respect most. A mentor, a leader, someone in your family. I'll bet that person has one thing in common with the others. They say what they think, even when it's unpopular. They don't flinch when you disagree. They don't scramble to adjust their position the moment they sense friction. They have a groundedness, a rootedness in themselves that is almost magnetic. That quality is not genetic. It is not luck. It is the result of a daily decision to stop outsourcing your self-worth to the opinions of other people. And here is the practice the Stoics would give you. Every morning, before you walk out into the world, ask yourself one question. Am I making this decision because I believe it is right, or because I want someone to approve of me? That one question, asked consistently, will begin to rewire the pattern. Because when you stop needing their approval, something remarkable happens. You start earning their respect. Habit number 2, talking more than you listen. This one is subtle. Because our culture has taught us, incorrectly, that the loudest voice in the room is the most important one, we reward talkers. We promote talkers. We elect talkers. And so most people, somewhere in their development, learn to equate volume with value. But watch what actually happens in a room when an over-talker takes over. The energy shifts. People start waiting for an opening rather than genuinely listening. Eyes drift. Attention wanders. And the person talking, unaware of all of this, keeps going, mistaking the polite silence of others for rapt engagement. Meanwhile, in the corner of that same room, there is a man who has said very little. He asked 2 questions. Both were sharp. Both were specific. He listened to the answers with complete attention, not formulating his next point, not waiting to redirect the conversation back to himself, but actually listening. And when he finally speaks, the room leans in. Why? Because silence has given weight to his words. Seneca wrote, "The Stoics considered the discipline of speech one of the highest forms of self-mastery." And I want you to think about this from a purely strategic perspective, because this isn't just philosophy. When you speak constantly, you reveal everything. Your insecurities, your fears, your need for validation, your gaps in knowledge. Every time you fill silence with words, you are giving the world a complete map of your interior. But the man who speaks with precision and restraint, he creates something psychologically powerful, mystery, and mystery commands attention. There is also a practical dimension to this. When you are busy talking, you are not learning. You already know what you know. Every moment you spend broadcasting your current perspective is a moment. You could have spent expanding it. Marcus Aurelius surrounded himself with advisors precisely because he understood this. One of the most powerful men in history actively sought out people smarter than him in specific domains, and then shut up and listened. Here is a challenge I want to give you. For the next 24 hours, in every conversation you have, try to ask twice as many questions as you make statements. Not fake questions. Not rhetorical questions designed to showcase your own thinking. Real questions. Questions you don't already know the answer to. And then actually listen to the response. Watch what happens. Watch how the other person's perception of you shifts, without you having said anything impressive at all. The quietest man in the room is often the most powerful man in the room. The Stoics knew this. Now you do too. Habit number 3. Complaining constantly. Let me ask you something. Think of the last time you complained about something. Maybe it was the traffic, your boss, the economy, the people in your life who aren't doing what you need them to do, the circumstances that seem stacked against you. Now ask yourself honestly, did the complaint change anything? Did the weather get better? Did your boss become reasonable? Did the economy reverse course because you expressed frustration about it? No. All that complaining did, all it ever does, is accomplish 2 things simultaneously. It drains your own energy, and it repels the people around you. The Stoics had a name for the mental habit that produces complaining. They called it misattribution of causes. Epictetus opens his entire teaching, the very first lines of the Enchiridion, with this. This is the foundational Stoic insight, and it directly addresses why complaining is not just unpleasant. It is a signal of a disordered mind. When you complain, you are spending your mental and emotional energy on the second category, things that are not in your power, as if your frustration has the ability to change them. It doesn't, and the people watching you know it. Here's the psychological reality. When someone complains to us repeatedly, we begin to associate them with the negative feelings their complaints generate. We start to feel a low-level dread when we see their name appear on our phone. We find reasons to avoid them, not because we are cruel, but because human beings are wired to move toward energy that elevates them and away from energy that depletes them. The man who commands deep respect is the man who, when faced with a problem, redirects immediately to solutions. He acknowledges the obstacle. He doesn't pretend it doesn't exist. But he doesn't linger there. He doesn't make his suffering into a performance. Marcus Aurelius faced plagues, wars, betrayals, the death of children, and the weight of an empire threatening to collapse. And the private journal he kept during those years contains almost no complaints. What it contains are constant redirections. What can I control here? What is my duty? What would a virtuous man do in this moment? That discipline, that refusal to turn suffering into a public spectacle, is one of the primary reasons he is remembered with reverence 2,000 years later. And here is what I want you to understand. This is not about toxic positivity. The Stoics were not naive optimists. They were hard, clear-eyed realists. They did not pretend life was easy. They simply refused to let what they couldn't change own them. Ask yourself today, what am I complaining about that I could instead be solving or accepting with grace? That shift from complaint to solution or acceptance is one of the most powerful respect-building moves you will ever make. Habit number 4, breaking your word. This one is the quiet assassin of reputation, because it rarely happens dramatically. Nobody wakes up and decides, today I will become unreliable. It happens in small ways. A meeting you said you'd attend, but something came up. A promise you made but forgot. A deadline you agreed to, then quietly extended without telling anyone. Each individual instance seems minor, but every time you break your word, even in a small way, you are making a deposit into a very specific account in the minds of the people around you. The account that tracks whether you can be trusted. And trust, once it begins to erode, is extraordinarily difficult to rebuild. The Stoics understood integrity, not as an external performance of virtue, but as an internal alignment between what you say and what you do. They called it logos, the internal rational order that governed a disciplined life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, notice what that means. Not just do good things, not just say true things, but to align doing and saying so completely that there is no gap between them. The man the world respects is the man whose word is currency. When he says he'll be there, he's there. When he commits to something, it gets done. When he tells you he'll handle it, you stop worrying about it. That kind of reliability is rare, and precisely because it is rare, it is worth more than almost any other quality a person can possess. Think about your most trusted friend, your most respected colleague, the mentor who changed your life. I guarantee that one of the things that made them stand out, one of the things that made you willing to give them access to your time, your problems, your trust, was this. They did what they said they would do. Now think about the opposite. Think about someone in your life who consistently overpromises and underdelivers, who says definitely and means maybe, who confirms plans and then cancels. What is your actual level of respect for that person? Here is the Stoic practice. Commit less. Follow through on everything you commit to. It is better to underpromise and overdeliver than to be a man whose word means nothing. And if you realize you have been unreliable, start now. Not with grand declarations, with one small promise kept completely, then another, then another. Reliability is a reputation built one kept word at a time. Habit number 5. Reacting emotionally without control. Here is a scene most of us have lived through. You're in a conversation. Something is said, a criticism, a provocation, a piece of news that hits you the wrong way. And before your rational mind even has time to engage, you react. The voice gets louder. The words get sharper. The logic disappears. And for a few moments, you are not a composed, rational, intentional human being. You are a weather system, a collection of uncontrolled impulses wearing a man's body. And here's the thing about emotional explosions. The blast radius never stays where you aim it. The people who witness them, even if they sympathize with your frustration, always walk away with the same quiet thought. I can't fully trust this person under pressure. The Stoics spent more time on this subject than almost any other, because they understood that emotional reactivity is not a symptom of passion or strength. It is a symptom of slavery. Epictetus, remember, was a literal slave, and he said something astonishing. Think about the implications of that for a moment. You can have no chains on your wrists. You can have freedom of movement, freedom of choice, freedom of speech, and still be enslaved by your own unregulated emotions. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the pause, the gap between stimulus and response. He called it one of the most important disciplines a man could cultivate, because in that pause, between what happens to you and how you respond to it, lives your entire character. The man who pauses and responds with composure, even under genuine provocation, communicates something that no amount of words ever could. I am in control of myself, and therefore I can be trusted to be in control of other things. That is the essence of masculine authority. Not volume, not aggression, not dominance through force. Command through composure. And this is not about suppressing emotion. The Stoics were not emotionless. Marcus Aurelius grieved deeply. Seneca loved with intensity. Epictetus cared about his students with genuine warmth. The goal is not to feel nothing. The goal is to feel everything and still choose your response. Because the man who can be destabilized by words, by setbacks, by provocation, that man will always be at the mercy of the world. But the man who can receive a blow, emotional, professional, personal, and stand still, breathe, and respond with measured calm, that man becomes someone other people want to stand behind. That man becomes someone people respect. Habit number 6. Surrounding yourself with mediocrity. Let me say something that might sting. The respect you receive from the world is not determined solely by your own actions. It is also determined, to a significant degree, by who you choose to spend your time with. This is not elitism. This is not cruelty. This is simple psychology with roots going back thousands of years. Seneca wrote in a letter to his friend Lucilius. He went further than that. He warned explicitly that the wrong company doesn't just fail to elevate you. It actively contaminates you. He wrote about how we unconsciously absorb the habits, the standards, the ambitions, or the lack of ambitions, of the people we spend the most time with. Think about the last 5 people you spent the most time with this week. Are they building things? Are they growing? Are they honest with you in ways that challenge you to be better? Or are most of your conversations about complaints, other people's failures, cheap entertainment that leaves you feeling empty? There is no judgment here. Most of us have been there. I've been there. But here is what the Stoics would tell you. You cannot rise above the ceiling of your environment without first deciding to change your environment. And here is the respect dimension that most people miss. When you are known to associate primarily with people who are drifting, people with no standards, no drive, no discipline, the world begins to assume those qualities describe you too. Conversely, when you are known to keep company with people who are growing, building, contributing, improving, you inherit some of their reflected light, even before you've fully earned it yourself. Your social circle is not just a comfort zone. It is a reputation signal. Now, this does not mean abandoning every person who is struggling. Loyalty and compassion are Stoic virtues too. But there is a difference between lifting someone up and being pulled down by them. The question is not, do I care about these people? The question is, does the time I spend here make me more or less capable of becoming who I am meant to be? The answer to that question should determine how you allocate your most irreplaceable resource: your time. Habit number 7, the most important one. Living without purpose. Here is a test. If someone walked up to you right now and asked, "What are you building?" what would you say? Not "What is your job?" Not "What do you do for money?" But what are you building? What are you moving toward? What gets you up in the morning with the feeling that your existence today will mean something by tonight? If you hesitated, if there was no clear, immediate answer, this habit may be the root from which all the others grow. Because here is what the Stoics discovered. A man without a clear sense of purpose becomes almost unconsciously susceptible to all the other habits we've discussed today. He seeks approval because he has no internal compass of his own. He fills silence with words because he has nothing of substance to build. He complains because the alternative, doing the hard work of becoming, feels too heavy. He breaks small promises because nothing feels truly important enough to honor. He reacts emotionally because he has no larger framework to absorb the shocks of daily life. He drifts toward mediocre company because the discomfort of better company reminds him of what he hasn't done. Purpose is the structural beam of a man's life. Remove it, and everything else collapses inward. Marcus Aurelius, ruling the greatest empire in the world, with every material comfort available to him, returned again and again in his meditations to the same question: am I fulfilling my duty? Am I living up to what I was made for? He didn't define purpose by pleasure. He didn't define it by wealth. He defined it by one thing: virtue in service of something larger than himself. Epictetus, with nothing, no money, no freedom, no comfort, lived with more evident purpose than most kings. And it radiated from him in a way that made senators cross the city to sit at his feet. Because a man with purpose moves differently through the world. He doesn't scramble for validation, because he is already validated by his own alignment with his mission. He speaks sparingly because his energy is reserved for things that matter. He doesn't complain, because every obstacle is simply raw material for the man he is becoming. He keeps his word because his word is an extension of his purpose, and to break it would be to betray himself. He remains calm under pressure because he knows who he is and where he is going. He chooses better company because he can't afford the cost of people who are heading somewhere he doesn't want to go. The Stoics didn't believe purpose was discovered. They believed it was chosen and then built through daily acts of discipline, integrity, and willful engagement with the hardest version of yourself. You don't wait to find your purpose. You choose a direction that calls on the best of what you are. And you start walking. And as you walk, purpose reveals itself. Not all at once, but slowly. The way dawn reveals a landscape, detail by detail, as you keep moving forward. So let's bring this together. 7 habits that silently destroy your respect. And what the Stoics knew about each one. Seeking approval from everyone when you need their validation. You've already given away your power. Talking more than you listen. The quietest man in the room is often the most powerful. Complaining constantly. Your complaints announce your powerlessness without solving anything. Breaking your word. Your reliability is your reputation. Built one kept promise at a time. Reacting emotionally without control. Composure is not weakness. It is the truest form of strength. Surrounding yourself with mediocrity. Your environment is a ceiling or a launch pad. You choose. Living without purpose. Everything else flows from this. Build a life that answers the question, what are you moving toward? Here is what I want you to leave with today. Respect, real, deep, lasting respect is not something that other people give you. It is something you build day by day through the quality of your character. The Stoics didn't teach a philosophy you read about. They taught a philosophy you live in the small moments, the invisible choices, the moments no one sees. Especially the moments no one sees, because that is where character is actually made. Marcus Aurelius wrote these words for no audience. He expected no one to ever read them. Not tomorrow. Not when circumstances change. Not when you feel ready. Now. In the next conversation you have. In the next decision you face. In the next moment you are tempted to react, to complain, to drift, to seek approval. Choose differently. And over time, not all at once, but over time, the world will notice. If this video gave you something to think about, something you're going to carry with you today, I'd love to know. Drop a comment below. Tell me, which of these 7 habits do you struggle with most? I read every comment, and I want to build this community around real conversations, not just passive watching. If you found this valuable, share it with someone who needs to hear it. One person you know who is fighting to become a better version of himself. That share might be the most meaningful thing you do today. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this channel exists for one reason: to bring you the ancient wisdom that the modern world has forgotten. Every week, no noise, just the real work. Subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss it. This has been Wisdom of the Stoics. I'll see you in the next one.